Hi, I'm Amy Shulke of VanillaArts.com, and this is a sweet Christmas angel. This Christmas angel project was originally developed for my local Copic Club classes in Macomb, Michigan. The full project took me about 45 minutes to color, and this is not a 45-minute video, so I can't show you everything in detail. Just keep in mind that this is a demonstration, not a lesson. There's a big difference between the two. A demo is how one person colors one image. You can learn from it, but it's not the same as a real class. A class has specific lessons and goals. It's a lot more than a demo. The local class for this image was hands-on instruction for beginners who are learning to color simple skin, simple hair, and simple fabric. The stamp that I'm using today is Angel Squidgies by StampingBella. There are several Squidgie sets, and this one is the Ornament and Bells set. I'm coloring the Ornament Squidgie. I stamped the Ornament Angel onto a quarter sheet of Express It blending card using Memento's London Fog. Memento is safe for Copics, and I prefer gray ink over black ink because I want my lines to almost disappear. See the description down below the video for a link to the printable supply list that I'm using here today. And please be sure to like this video and hit the subscribe button. Your support tells me to keep making more coloring videos. Are you ready? Let's color. I'm starting today with a very pale blue Copic. This is B60, and I'm using it to add a bit of a drop shadow behind our angel. I'm still going to add a cast shadow down on the floor, but I find that this little bit of extra color helps to pop the image away from a plain white background. And here's that cast shadow down below. Cast shadows are important because they keep your object from floating in outer space. Even cartoon images will look a lot more real with a cast shadow below them. Okay, so we're starting a two-color blending combination on the face, and I've darkened right where the hair hangs over the face, and now I'm coming in and pushing those eye sockets deeper. There we go. It's just going to start to sculpt her face so that it doesn't look like she has a round basketball-shaped head. So that was E21 in the darker zones, and like this ear right here, that's deep, so it gets the E21, as well as where the arm tucks into the sleeve, and then I'll blend these things out with an E50. So right where the feet tuck under the skirt, right where the toes turn up, right where that foot hangs over the other foot, and then the far side of the foot, and then now all blended out with the E50. Nice and smooth. Now normally I start hair immediately after I do the face because at that point, if it doesn't turn out well, I don't have a lot of time invested in it. But if I start to color the hair, I'm going to lose these leaves. So I'm popping the leaves in right away with this Staetdler Triplus green pen, and Staetdler Triplus are Copic safe, so I can color right over the top of these. Here comes the hair, and that's where the part is on her hair. Parts are usually darker. You see the roots there, but there's also a little bit of shade in there. So I make the part darker, and then I'm bringing back the back of the hair with the darker of my two blonde colors here. So I put the dark in first, and now here comes the lighter of the blondes, kind of making like an ash blonde. I was back up there at the part, darkening the part, and then darkening the hair right underneath those leaves. And now I'm going to break apart the side here with a little bit of chunking, and that's going to keep the hair from looking as if it's a football helmet. No basketball heads, no football helmet hair. Here comes the blonde, just blending it out. I'm taking that marker up and over the top of the darker marker so that everything blends out nice and smooth, but the hair isn't, just like a bowl shape. I missed a few leaves there, so I'm adding those back in. I'm using another two marker combination on the ornament. I'm kind of shooting for an antique brass color. I don't want this to be shiny gold. I want this to look like an older ornament. So this is YR27 that's coming in from the top, just rounding this out. A little bit of darker color coming down the center, and now I've got to push the ornament back behind the angel with a little bit of this darkness. So I'm going to find the edge of the angel and flick up into the ornament, and that's going to make it appear as if the ornament is sitting behind the angel's wing and behind her hair. So there we go, just pushing that deeper, making sure that I get all the way across. Coming up behind a few of those leaves, and then remember that center dark section. My plan is to have 2 hot spots, one on either side of this dark section. So I'm getting all of this in with the 2-7, and now I'm switching to YR24, and that's really the local color of this ornament. And I know it's hard to tell with this sped up version, but when I put my dark color down, I go rather fast. When I put my blending color down, I slow down. I slow down and I press a little bit harder into the paper, and that gives me a juicier stroke. More juice means a better blend. So I slow down with this YR24 so that I can really blend everything out. I think I'm switching here to a gray. Yep, I'm going to do this cap as if it was silver, so this is just N0, and I will come back and add more detail to the cap a little bit later with colored pencil. Moving on to the dress, another 2 marker combination. YG17 is my dark marker here, and I'm using it to tuck that dress underneath her chin and underneath that sleeve there. You have to push it deeper with darkness in order to get that depth. Pushing the back side of the skirt, because remember that skirt wraps around her body, so this area right up there is going to be farther away from us. Same thing down here, it's wrapping around her body, so it has to get darker as that skirt moves away from us. So there's the YG17, here comes the YG03, a slower blending stroke, really pushing the ink into the paper so that it can blend all on its own. If you've got enough moisture, your Copics will blend for you. It's not the scrubbing and the rubbing that blends your markers, it's having enough juice. Back with the darker marker, pushing that sleeve back behind her head, and now here comes the lighter color right over the top of it, and it's blending on its own without any help from me. Let's move on to the wings next. This is N0, and I'm pushing those wings back behind her head with a little bit of darkness, and then the wings also have, like, there's 2 layers to these wings, so I'm pushing the back layer back. So back behind her head, and now pushing the back layer of the wings behind the front layer of the wings. There we go. Now I'm going to come through and give it just another coat on those back layers, because 2 coats of N0 is darker than 1 coat of N0. And I'll play with that little silver cap one more time. One last element with the Copics before we move on to the colored pencil. This is B60. It's the same color that I used for the little drop shadow and the cast shadow. And what I'm doing here will eventually be snowflakes. Now I'm not doing the snowflakes right now. What I'm doing here is I'm putting in the shadow that each one of those snowflakes would cast. So I'm going to come back later with a glitter pen and add in the snowflakes. This right here is just the shadow, planning out where those snowflakes will eventually be. And I put some on the ground just for a little extra realism. Alright, moving on to the face details. That's black Staetdler Triplus for the eyes. I have a lot of control with that Triplus pen. I would never do eyes with a Copic. Here comes blush. We don't want to choose a blush that's too dark, and we don't want to apply too much, because we want this little angel to still look like a little girl and not a supermodel when we're done. So I just pinked up the cheeks exactly where you would apply blush, and I kept it nice and gentle. Now right here I'm finding the bottom of her eye sockets. This is grade lavender, and I am pushing those eye sockets deeper. And that's going to immediately pull the cheeks forward and make it appear as if she's smiling a little bit. You have to push the eyes deeper to get that natural kind of grin that you get on smiley faces. A little bit in the corners of the lips right there. Just pushing that chin a little bit deeper than her upper lip. See how we're getting away from that basketball shape? a little bit of sienna brown here, just to push that ever so slightly deeper. And then going over the nose area, I'm just above the nose, so I can pop her nose forward just a little bit later. Bringing that pink all the way up to the edge of the cheek. This is Nectar. Nectar is a great color for lips on boys or little girls who are not wearing makeup. It's a very natural, it almost matches my lips exactly in real life. That was Grade Lavender again, and what I was doing was I was pushing the area right above the nose, and then that way that kind of pulls the lips and the cheeks forward. I added a little bit of curl inside of her ear so it looks like her ear is deep, and now I'm darkening right where those feet tuck up underneath the skirt and where those toes curl up. There's a little ankle bone, and now I'm coloring right behind the ankle bone. See how that ankle bone pops forward? Because I pushed the foot back behind it. And you'll see me adjust things every once in a while. A little bit of white highlight right below the eye and a little bit on the nose. And see, no more basketball head. Okay, let's move on to the hair. And I'm using a sepia colored Triplus here. And I'm just doing a few flicks, and they're coming out beyond the edge of the hair. So these are just stray hairs. And I'm not doing too many. You can definitely put too many in, and then it's going to look like she's got very stripy hair. This is just the first of several passes, so here comes the second pass with a little bit of white. This forms the highlight. And she's pretty streaky here, don't worry. Got another brown pencil coming in. That'll just reestablish the depth that we had earlier. There we go. Sienna brown here, darkening the area right there at the part, making that hair appear to dip down closer to her skull right there at the part. Darkening the hair behind the ears. That pulls the ear forward. It makes her head more dimensional that way. And let's pop a few little red berries onto her little halo here. They're not showing up really well on camera, but they do look quite nice in real life. We're going around the halo up here. So she's got one on her head and one hovering over her head, and they both get little red berries. The berries are not actually in the stamp, it's just something that I've added. Coming in with a black Triplus to do the stem of the halo, and then I'm going to come around trying to retrace my steps so that we can get the impression that there is an oval here. It's hard to see the stamp at this point because I've got so many different colors over the top of it. So sometimes I will look at a freshly stamped uncolored image to retrace my steps. Still not completely happy with her hair, so I'm pushing that hair a little bit darker around the back, and that lets her bangs kind of come forward. Much happier with that now. Slate gray, and I'm using this to just push those wings back behind her body and then separate the two layers of the wings. It doesn't take a lot of colored pencil to do this separation. I'm going very, very lightly. I can always come back and add a little bit more, but if you press too hard and you do it wrong, it's hard to erase it. So it's best to go really, really light and then add more if you need it. See how I sculpted that little top silver cap really nicely. Pushing the brass darker as it goes up underneath the silver cap, and then right down here as it's coming along the side next to her body. Just darkening it a bit, switching to the sienna brown, which is the same color that I used in her hair, and I'm going to use that to emphasize the dark areas, the low lights on the brass. And I'll have a low light coming down around the edge and one coming up, pushing that ornament back behind her body, looking at it, evaluating, and once I'm happy with the dark areas, now I can pop in just that little bit of highlight on the left and on the right. I want this ornament to look as if it is matte metal and not high shine metal. There is a pattern. There's a little star pattern that I'm coming through and rescuing now with a white gel pen. You saw me warm that ink up on my fingertip because there's always crusty dried ink on the ends of these Uniball pens. And I'm using a Uniball because it's a very opaque white and it can handle going over the top of this darker YR27. There's also kind of a quilted pattern that I'm trying to rescue. It's a little hard to tell where it's at. So I've got another stamp sitting right off to the side, and I'm kind of looking at that for guidance. Here we go, just putting in the last of those little quilted stripes. Still not looking totally right to me, but it's good enough. Okay, this is indigo blue pencil, and I'm using it to push that sleeve way back because we can barely see it through there. And then her chin is going to hang over the edge of the dress and cast a little bit of shade onto the top of the dress. The arm is hanging over the top of the dress, and that's going to have to get pushed back. Notice how when I push the dress back, it pulls that sleeve forward. Everything that I do is push and pull. I don't care which direction the sunlight is coming from. I'm not worried about that. I'm only worried about what is close to me and what is far. If it's close, I highlight it like I just did with the sleeve. If it's far away, like this right here where the dress goes way back beyond us, I'm pushing that with a little bit of darkness. If you're interested in this push and pull coloring, I have several workshops online that you can take. I'll put a little link up there at the top. I will put in a link to the introductory class for pushing and pulling, but it totally eliminates having to worry about directional light because you don't care about the sun or which direction the light is coming from. You only care about the push and the pull. So much easier. Pulling this little area. And there's her dress with the colored pencil, and now I'm going to add some little polka dots to it just so that we have a little bit of texture to that dress. Popping those in with the uniball, and I'm trying desperately to do just a single touchdown because I don't want these dots to be too big. There we go. Nice polka dotted dress. Now, even though I've added those stars and the quilting and the dots with a uniball gel pen, I don't want them to be bright white because these areas have shade. So this is N4 going over the top of that uniball, and it's instantly going to add that shade that happens as the ornament goes around the edges. And then right here, those polka dots might be white, but they're sitting in shadow, so they cannot be bright white. It'll ruin the illusion of depth. So here's my Jelly Roll Clear Star Sparkle pen here, and I'm using it to add feathery texture to both of these wings. Just drawing out the center stem of a feather and then making little notches off the edge of it. Adding some glitter to her halo, going around in the circle there, and the one that's on her head. Don't forget about that one. And now let's do those snowflakes. So each one of those little dots of B60 now gets a dot of sparkle just off and to the left of it. And now not only do we have snow, but we have snow that's casting a little bit of shadow onto the white background. Now I know on camera this glitter pen looks a bit gray. I'll tilt the project in a few seconds so that you can see the metallic shine to it. By the way, this is Jelly Roll Clear Star, not the Silver Star version. That one is really gray. And there you go. I only pull out the glitter pen once a year, folks. That's how you can tell it's Christmas time. And here are both of my angel squidgies. And the printable supply list linked below has both the blonde and the brunette recipe included. Merry Christmas to you and your family, and here's to a new year full of lots more Copic coloring projects.